Anything any sweeter than a little one praying. That just really touches me. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Brother B. It's good to be in God's house. And it is such a pretty day. This side over here is warm, y'all. Okay. I enjoy doing what I do. I really do. I know I'm not probably as good as I need to be doing this, but I enjoy it. And all of the sermons I preach, I used to say, and I still do, when I point, there's three fingers right there pointing back at me. And the only way I could think about these things is if they were involved in my life in some way. So, and you've got to get personal sometimes with people in order for them to feel like you've touched them. If you don't get personal, it just goes right over their head. So sometimes I'm a little too personal. This sermon is aimed at me. It's not at you. Let me get up here. Are you yielded to Christ? Boy, oh boy. When I was in 8th grade in school, that's back when they were making sand, you know, we started driver's education. And it was fun. It was a real good time in my life because, boy, I was finally getting to learn to drive an automobile. On that Christmas, Santa Claus brought me a Cushman Eagle motor scooter. Ooh. Boy, I mean, I was turned loose. But driver's education, I really put myself into that thing and was trying to do, you know, and I passed nearly everything. There was one word I was having a hard time with that I missed on the test question, and the word was yield. I didn't know what that meant. I was a country kid, man. They showed this little upside down signs of triangle and yelling. They wouldn't know what yield meant. I didn't know. Anyway, if you see the yield sign in front of you, then you're about to enter a lane of traffic, I can tell you. And the person facing the yield sign needs to look both ways to see if traffic's coming. If it is, then you've got to stop and you've got to let these folks pass on by. If you fail to yield and you pull out in front of them, well, you're either going to have a wreck or you're going to hear some scorching words as they're driving on down the road. So really to yield means to let the other traffic have its way before you proceed. Let the other traffic have its way. That's an explanation of what a Christian's attitude should be toward our Savior. The Christian should be yielded to Christ. This say Christ should have his way in our lives. The question is, are you yielded to Christ? How can you tell if you're yielded to the Savior? If you feel like life is running you down, then odds are you're just not totally yielded to the Savior. I'm not saying that life doesn't run us down. I'm saying that if we have the feeling it is, then odds are there are things in our lives we haven't given over to Him to allow Him to control. If we haven't yielded to Christ, then we've yielded to temptation, haven't we? Here are some pictures of yielding to temptation. I put them in a bulletin for you. The lure of forbidden fruit. The lure of forbidden fruit, Genesis 3, verse 6, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her. And he did eat. What happened a few verses before that verse? God said that she and Adam shouldn't eat of the fruit of that tree. But it was enticing. It was beautiful. There's a video that comes on the Facebook. Some guy, and he's a Chinese feller, and he's got gardens like I never saw. And he'll take a big old papaya or something off that tree and just, whoosh, and it's such a beautiful. It's amazing. The fruit in the garden must have been that enticing. Even more so, just luscious fruit. Eve was enticed. She yielded to the temptation to eat it. Is there something in your life that's enticing you to yield to it? You know that God has told you not to yield to it. You find yourself like Eve, giving into the temptation to participate. Then it can be said that your witness to all those who are observing you is not the witness God would have them see. Right? Odds are this yielding is causing you to feel life has run you over. Probably has. I'm saying that not yielding to Christ steals any peace we can have in life. Look at Adam and Eve. After they yielded to the temptation of the devil, do you see many folks today do the same thing as Adam and Eve? They went and hid from God. Everywhere we look, folks are hiding from God. You say, well, how do we know that? If they weren't hiding from God, this place would be running over. Who can hide from one who is omnipresent? You know what that word means? That means that God is everywhere all the time. How can we hide from that? Just like you can't fool Mother Nature, you can't hide from God. The lure of fertile fields. Genesis chapter 13, verses 10 through 13. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. The lure of fertile fields. Lot's choice was the easy road. You guys, if you take the easy road, a lot of times you'll find yourself with a bunch of lazy folks all around you, because they're on that easy road too. So many times the easy way is not the way the Lord wishes his chosen to take. Be careful in yielding to temptation of fertile fields. The lure of appetite. Genesis chapter 25, verse 29 through 33. And Jacob sod pottage, and I believe that means he made pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Appetites are habits that develop over time. It develops over a time of yielding to those appetites. I've seen men who smoke and are out of smokes. They continue to reach in their pockets even though that pocket's empty. My daddy smoked 4 packs of Camels every day of his life. He, like many, yielded to the temptation of those cigarettes for most of his life. I don't say that's a sin, but it killed him. He died with lung cancer. In my mind, he chose his method of death by yielding to the temptation to smoke. Yielding to our appetites, listen to me, creates situations fertile for the formation of a method of death. This death is essentially giving away our birthright, as did Esau in the passage we just read. Giving away our birthright for a bowl of pottage. Be real careful in the habits you form in life. Most of them are not of God, and in participating in them, we often give away our birthrights. The lure of silver and gold. This is beautiful. It's an odd story. It really tells a story. Joshua chapter 7, verse 21, and then I'm going to look at Joshua 7, 24 through 26. When I saw among the spoils a goodly Babylonish garment, and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight, then I coveted them, and I took them, and behold, they are hid in the earth in the midst of my tent, and the silver under it. And skipping down to 24, and Joshua and all Israel with him took Achan, the son of Zerah, and the silver and the garment and the wedge of gold, and his sons and his daughters and his oxen and his asses and his sheep and his tent and all that he had, and they brought them unto the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, Why hast thou troubled us? And the Lord shall trouble thee this day. And all Israel stoned him with stones and burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones unto this day. So the Lord turned from the fierceness of his anger, wherefore the name of that place was called the Valley of Achor unto this day. Y'all need to read that story. In that passage, we find God telling his people not to take anything that belongs to these folks. He tells his people to destroy everything. But in that passage, we see one of the folks, a fellow by the name of Achan. He looked on some of that loot and he was tempted to take it. And he hid it in his tent. And God saw his deed that was done in secret, and he began to punish all of Israel for that one deed that was done. Money can lead folks to do some really underhanded things, can't it? And these underhanded acts eventually cause enough trouble that many suffer the consequences. You guys, in my mind, the United States is guilty of that same sin. We've got our mind on money in this United States. The sin of pursuing the gain of filthy lucre. Pursuing it in any way possible, even in ways that can cause the suffering of many. In my mind, the way to stay in the center of the will of God is to stay honest in your dealings with man. Honest to the point of giving away things that might rightfully be yours. I've known men who have had 2 sets of books. One set for the IRS, and the other set to let him know just exactly really where he was. Let me tell you, God knows exactly what you're doing. If we're trying to hide from him, one day we'll find he has a set of books that reveals every secret act that has ever been performed. And listen to me, folks. If God punished the angels in heaven for their wrongs, Why do we think we are better? The lure of women is what I've got down here because I'm a man. In your bulletin, I've got the lure of the opposite sex. But I'm using Solomon as an example. 1 Kings chapter, I just went dead, brother. You might have to turn my orange one on. Okay, we're going to get this right some of these days. 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 through 4. But King Solomon loved many strange women. That's a phrase, isn't it? Together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, and by the way, that Edomites was Esau. I mean, we just got through reading it. He was the father of the Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, you shall not go into them. In other words, God told them not to. Neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Two things in that passage jump out in my face. One of them is that Solomon actually chose to disobey God. He knew God told him not to do that, but he chose to disobey God. And he yoked himself together with unbelievers equally. He yielded to the temptation of womanly beauty, joined himself with not just one, but many over and over and over again. That in itself is a sin. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14 says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? Maybe that New Testament passage was formed as a result of Solomon's unequal yoke with so many unbelievers. I don't know that. Second thing is that Solomon in his old age forgot God. His yielding to his lusts eventually caused him to forget the Creator who had blessed him so much in his reign. He, in a large sense, let God down. Are we letting God down? Do you in your heart know you in some way are letting God down? Maybe it's the fact that you're yielding to temptations forbidden to the Creator, by the Creator. Maybe it's that this yielding has become so ingrained in your life and you find it impossible to reverse. Let me tell you, God is in the business of miracles. He wouldn't listen to the 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. That come out of the mouth of God, brother. Let me close with this illustration. A Haitian pastor illustrates to his congregation the need for a total commitment to Christ, yielded to Christ. Told of a certain man who wanted to sell his house for $2,000. Another man wanted it badly but couldn't afford the price. So they haggled and haggled, and the owner agreed to sell the house for half the asking price with just one stipulation. He wanted to retain ownership of one small nail protruding from just over the door. After several years, the original owner wanted the house back, but the new owner was unwilling to sell. So the first owner went out. He found him a carcass of a dead animal, and he hung it on that single nail that he still owned. Soon that house became where you couldn't even walk in the front door, and the family was forced to sell the house to the owner of the nail. Haitian's pastor's conclusion was, if we leave the devil with even one small peg in our life, he'll return to hang his rotten garbage on it and making it unfit for Christ's habitation. Christ wants every part of your life. Are you yielded to him today? That's my sermon. And it was for me as much as it was for you. God bless you. What song are we going to sing, brother?